I experienced the weirdest thing this morning. I turned on CNN and they were praising the economy. Even though unemployment has gone up by 0.2%, they said, no, it's a good thing because it means that people are re-entering the workforce. And I found it strange because CNN loves ragging on Trump. And they certainly don't want to give credits to him for anything good, at least I'd imagine. And we know the jobs report is really great, we're going to get into that. But why would they praise the unemployment going up? It was really weird. But even Yahoo has this story. Boom, U.S. adds whopping 312,000 jobs in December. And I'm seeing these mainstream news outlets, and I just find it so damn fascinating because, look, most of the news about Trump is negative. Here we have something extremely positive. This is really, really good news for Trump. They don't put his name in it necessarily. They just talk about how great things are. Because if you're not familiar, so I'll just read this. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported Friday that non-farm payrolls rose to 312,000 in December, surging past expectations of 184,000. The BLS also upwardly revised its figure for non-farm payroll additions in November to 176,000 from 155,000 previously reported. The unemployment rate rose to 3.9% in December. The unemployment rate was 3.7% in November, the lowest overall unemployment level since 1969. The uptick was due to the labor force participation rate increasing 63.1% in December from 62.9%. So what they're basically saying, they also go on to add average hourly earnings, a closely watched metric of inflation pressures in the economy, increased 0.4% over the last month and 3.2% over the past year. This exceeded expectations of wage growth of 0.3% over the last month and 3% over last year. Wages rose 3.1% over the prior year. So there's technical details. But what was fascinating to me is that on CNN, someone said, this is the largest wage increase in 10 years. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but that's at least what I heard one of the pundits say. And I'm just like, how are you going to rag on Trump for this one? You know, like, I remember there's a quote from Obama where he said something like, you can't add these jobs, the economy isn't going to grow that way, Trump is wrong. Here we are now, 2019, and they have almost doubled the expectations for the economy. This is like the biggest news this morning. Everyone's extremely happy, they're cheering. They say, Friday's jobs report comes as other key indicators of economic strength in the U.S. have begun to deteriorate. The past month's manufacturing surveys from New York, Philadelphia, Richmond, Dallas, and Dallas Federal Reserve banks each disappointed. And the Conference Board's latest reading on consumer confidence sagged to a 6-month low. Growth in the housing has been crimped by historically high mortgage rates, and the average rate of a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage climbing to the highest levels since February 2011 at the beginning of November before retreating slightly over the past several weeks. So they get into a bunch of other stuff, but I don't necessarily want to talk about getting into the specifics here because I've got this from Bloomberg. This is their jobs numbers, technical analysis type thing. Latest update was today. They say, the jobs numbers, who's hiring in America and who's not. And this is absolutely fascinating. U.S. employers added 312,000 jobs in December, and the nation's unemployment rate ticked to 3.9%, according to data released Friday by the Labor Department. Meanwhile, average hourly pay for workers rose 3.2% from a year earlier to $27.48 from $26.64. I'll just point out right here this beautiful economic collapse. Yikes! And we can see the total number of jobs. It's up. It's definitely recovered. But here's where things get really interesting. Below are the industries, the highest and lowest rates of unemployment growth for the most recent month. Additionally, monthly growth rates are shown for the prior year. The latest month's figures are highlighted. Wage data are shown when available. Check this out. Miscellaneous non-durable goods and manufacturing is up. It gained 5,500 jobs. Manufacturing, hey, great. Heavy and civil engineering, construction jobs, up 16,000. Really good news. Logging is up. I don't know if that's good news because I'm kind of an environmentalist and I'd much prefer if we used alternatives, maybe, hemp for paper and clothing and things like that. But you know what? Okay, it's only a gain of 600 jobs. Not a big industry necessarily, so a gain is a gain. It's good for the economy. Maybe, if it's sustainable logging, I'll be happy about it. But we'll move on from that. Petroleum and coal products. More bad news for the left and the environmentalists because they gained 1,300 jobs. If you're on the right, you don't care about global warming, sounds like good news. The current wage is $40 an hour, it looks like. Coal mining is up 600 jobs. Okay, this is a 1.13% increase, and when you compare this to petroleum, you can see that the industry is actually a lot smaller, but the growth is similar. This is good news for Trump fans, and it's good news for people who work in coal mining areas, but admittedly, 600 jobs, not a whole lot. This is where it gets funny. Broadcasting is down, except internet. They lost 1,200 jobs. Now, I know it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't mean like news industry necessarily, just broadcasting in general, but I wouldn't be too upset if mainstream cable news networks didn't do too well, right? But ultimately, I don't want to wish for people losing their jobs. I don't want to wish for a bad economy. I just kind of look at that and I'm like, oh, really? You know, the layoffs in media, but except for internet. Couriers and Messenger, I don't really care. The post office lost jobs, well, non-depository credit intermediation. I have no idea what that is, but they lost a lot of jobs. Sporting goods, hobby book, and music stores, way down, 9,400. And that's, in my opinion, these are issues of technological advancement. But here's what's this is what's going to interest me, for the most part. So they do a connect the dots thing, we'll read that in a second. But I'm curious now if people are going to start ragging on Trump. Admittedly, for me, I've talked at great length that foreign policy is one of the most important issues in my mind. I am not a nationalist by no means, nor I wouldn't call myself a globalist. I believe it's important for the U.S. to maintain its borders and its laws and security, but I do believe that international cooperation should be paramount to an extent, right? And the reason for this is that trade and science are, these things are, less trade, but science expands the more we're cooperating to a certain extent. We need some competition, we need some cooperation. I'm a mixed economy kind of guy. So I'm not diehard nationalist, not diehard globalist. There's a happy medium where we say, look, this is our country, this is what we're doing and why we're doing it. We're going to benefit what we do because this is our community. But we want to maintain trade for a few reasons. You know, rare earths, for instance, are overwhelmingly produced in China. That's what we use for computers and smartphones and things like that. So we need this trade. Also, the more we do trade, the less likely there is for global conflict, right? One of the reasons that you see a lot of conflict dissipate is because there are necessities between both nations, and it's better, look, man, France, you make cheese, we need the cheese, let's not fight over this, because I still want my cheese. But a more serious issue is, no, it's like rare earths and things like that. Although I did hear recently something funny that, like, apparently China is going to be importing rice from us, I guess, but hey, that's good. And one of the reasons I think you see a lot of the globalists, and I don't know if that's the apt term necessarily, but people like Hillary Clinton, they want NAFTA. They want TPP because they ultimately do want a one world government, for the most part. Now look, in my opinion, it's going to happen. No matter what, we're going to end up in a world that's overwhelmingly one there's not going to be nations. It's going to happen. This is the increasing effect of trade and communication. What we need to make sure is that when it happens, we don't end up with an authoritarian dictatorship telling people what they can or can't do. And it's a big problem when you realize some cultures are very different from others, and they fight each other. Because then you get this authoritarian system that doesn't care whether or not there is a good or bad culture. They just force people to live together, and that can be a very damaging and I mean, that's terrible. Like, imagine if you had people from, say, Saudi Arabia here in the US demanding women wear, hijab. Then you have feminists saying hijab is a choice, and then you have other feminists saying there's no way in hell I'm going to wear that. There's a conflict even within, like if you look at feminism that is pro-hijab and feminism that is anti-hijab, it's the feminists in Saudi Arabia that are opposed to it, and the feminists here who aren't subjected to it, who agree with it, and then you'll end up with an authoritarian dictatorship saying, we don't care who's right or who's wrong, you're forced to live together, and they're going to side with whichever group is going to have the least amount of turmoil for them. We need to make sure that if we come to a one world government or one world community or culture, it's not going to be an authoritarian one. And that means we're playing on hard mode, because it's really easy for authoritarians to do their thing. But let's connect the dots. They say, follow the dots in the chart below to see how the shift in employment have coincided with changes in average hourly pay from one month to the next. Basically, the main reason I wanted to highlight this and look at this is that it looks like we can see that things got pretty bad after the economic collapse, but things have typically gone really, really well. And throughout Obama, things have been pretty good. Actually, no, I take that back. That was 2008. I don't know if we can blame Obama for that, but let's just say, if we're going to talk about today, from 2016 to 2018, there's a little tiny uptick. So ultimately, the main point I want to bring up is I'm going to be really interested to see how they blame Trump for the economy, right? Because the market has been fluctuating like crazy. It like went down a lot, but then it had the biggest rally ever, like 1,000 points, and that's kind of scary. It's getting really volatile, and we don't want that. But now we're seeing, the stock market is way up today, last I checked, because of this report. It's all really, really good news for the most part. Is Trump to blame for the good things that are happening, right? And I say that because, the media always wants to blame Trump for everything that's happening. I'm wondering if they're going to blame him for this. I think they're going to leave his name out of the story and say, wow, isn't everything great? I wonder why it's great, okay? Now look, I'm not an economist. I don't know if it has anything to do with what Trump did or didn't do, but I will say all I know as a normie when it comes to the economy is that Trump said he's going to do a bunch of things. A bunch of good things happen, so what else can I say, right? And then obviously you're getting Obama saying, oh, this is my work. It's like, come on, dude, we're on year 3 now. We're entering the 3rd year, so I don't think, we're entering the 2nd year for the most part, but I don't think that's the, I don't know what else to say, right? I don't know who takes credit for this. You have a president with a plan, administration, he's signing bills, tax cuts, etc. Is it good or bad? I don't know. Economy is doing really, really well. Really, really well. I mean, even though unemployment went up a little bit, for the most part, it's still ridiculously low relative to the rest of our history. So, yeah, long story short, let's see what the media has to say about this now, because it seems like everybody is just singing the praises. But will they put Trump's name in it? Anyway, stick around. I got some more videos coming up in just a few minutes on this channel, and I will see you then.